with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lisa, would you read the Open Public Meetings Act?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakes Town Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Here.
Mrs. Laybow?
Here.
Mr. Mania? Mr. Perkins? Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Fuente? Mr. Nacastro?
Here. Let the records reflect Mr. Perkins is not available, feeling well, and Mr. Ferrante is on his way in.
Be here in what, 3 hours?
He'll be here eventually, wherever he's coming from. We're going to move the agenda down. The discussion for Nicole Shields, we're going to put off. The attorney's on his way here, but he's running late as well, so he asked us to put that off till he gets here. So we'll move on to the other items on the agenda. Resolutions. We have 16 resolutions on the agenda. Does anyone have any discussion on these? Mr. Roman?
Sean, I have a question on the one for stabilization of the Seward Mansion grant. Is there any are you optimistic at all that we will find someone to do this?
Yeah, a little history. The Seward Mansion grant was a county historic preservation grant. The initial budget estimate was $100,000 on the grant expenditures. Lowest bid from your backup came in at $131,000. You know, just like other bids we've come in before, we're going to immediately go back out to rebid. If it comes in over that amount, then we're going to approach council, ask them for a resolution for authorization to negotiate. As you can see from the council packet, we have a successful resolution for the Houday Bridge. We've used the same approach there as well as Mount Plainmore. So if we don't get a good bid, we'll have a negotiation. We're going to hit our number no matter what, so it's just a matter of time and strategy.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Sean and I had a discussion at dinner tonight in terms of the restoration of the Seward Mansion. And there, I guess, is some push by people not involved currently in Mount Olive government to do a historic reservation of that building. My plan is not to do a historic reservation, but rather to do a restoration that is going to be bringing that building back into use. I don't want to spend a gazillion dollars to bring that back in a historic fashion, but a like historic fashion, which will allow us to put maybe buildings and grounds and our recreation different groups in that building, and perhaps look at it as a revenue source as well in terms of using it to rent out the park ultimately for people who may want to come in and have some kind of gatherings there. So my thought process, and I'd like your support ultimately when the time comes, we're not there yet, is that I don't think that it benefits the township to do a historic restoration of the property.
Agreed, I agree with you. It's keep it open to the public, allow it to be used.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I agree with the mayor. The problem with if you restore it to the historic preservation type of a status, then you have to, it's a lot more expensive, tons more money, because everything has to be to that time period and so on and so forth. But if you restore it to use, then you can use more modern materials and that type of thing. So I think that's a perfect idea to do it that way. Thank you.
Mr. Roman?
Sean, on the last resolution for the water damage for the library, forgive me, I did not find what the cost.
Yeah, we were anticipating bids received this morning at 10:30. Unfortunately, we received no bids for restoration. Immediately, we put a ad back out in the Daily Record, as well as we're seeking quotes. It's a borderline type of thing. Currently, the water damage from the emergency response is about 16 and change. Under the concept of aggregation for the local public's contract law, we're allowed to have upwards of $36,000 in repairs. So where that leaves us currently is no bid as of this morning. Legally, we have to do a second bid. So that's going out. We're going to open that up on March 17th. When we first wrote this bid 2 weeks ago, we expected the rapid recovery bill to be much higher than it was. Like I said, it was about 16 and change. I don't have the exact number. That leaves us about $19,000 in restoration costs. If we're able to get 3 quotes that are that or under, now it's a prevailing wage job, we'll be able to award by Thursday on quotes. So we're going to do a bifurcated approach, the 3 quotes as well as a second bid. So the easy answer is there was no bids and there's no resolution for tonight, unfortunately.
So it is being pulled.
It's going to be pulled.
Oh, okay.
Number 16 is removed from the agenda.
Okay.
Anything else on resolutions? We have three ordinances here. Any questions on the ordinances? Seeing none, do we have any old business? Any new business? Public portion, anyone from the public wish to be heard? Again, we're going to, the attorney should be here shortly, that's all we're waiting on for that. So we'll move along, and then as soon as he gets here, we'll move right to that portion, so we don't keep you here longer than you have to be. Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to the public meeting. Lisa, would you read the Open Public Meetings Act?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Here.
Mrs. Laybow?
Here.
Mr. Mania? Mr. Perkins? Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Frente? Mr. Nacastro?
Here. Mr. Amianda, would you move for the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting?
I make a motion for approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Okay, we have, I believe, 13 correspondence. Any questions or anything on the correspondence? Seeing none. Let's see, I want the second readings. Ordinance for public hearing. Ordinance number 2-2015. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 2-2015, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing the conveyance of deed of the historic preservation easement to the Morris County Board of Chosen Freeholders for the property currently known as Block 7801, Lot 14, as the Mount Olive Bible Baptist Church. Mrs. Laybow?
Thank you, Mr. President. Did you say 2013 or 2015?
2015, did I say 13?
I wasn't sure. I thought I heard 13. I just want to make sure. Thank you. I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 2-2015.
Second.
Roll call, please. Any discussion, rather? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Here. Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Who seconded that?
Was it?
Mr. Roman?
Ordinance number 2-2015 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. I open to the hearing to the public on ordinance number 3-2015, ordinance reappropriating $82,728.09, proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purposes, in order to provide for various recreation improvements and by the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey. Mr. Maney is not here. Mr. Roman?
I move for adoption and final passage, ordinance number 3-2015.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just on my sheet, it says 3015. So,
This says 3 here. Oh, it does say 3015.
Oh.
Correction, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 3-2015 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish notice of adoption as required by law. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 4-2015, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to amend Chapter 211, Article 2, Section 211-15, entitled Placement of Material for Collection. Mr. Amianda?
Okay, I make a motion for approval of.
This one, 4-2015. They say, adoption for final passage. Ordinance number 4-2015.
Okay, I make a motion for approval of for adoption and final passage of ordinance number
4-2015.
4-2015.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laval?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 4-2015 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 6-2015, refunding bond ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, providing for refunding of all or portion of general improvement refunding bonds, Series 2005, sewer utility refunding bond, Series 2005, general improvement bond, Series 2006, appropriating $4,244,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance by the township of refunding bonds in the aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $4,244,000 for financing the cost thereof. Mr. Roman.
I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 6-2015.
Can everyone please speak into the microphone? They're not picking it up.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laval?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 6-2015 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 7-2015, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, repealing Chapter 15 of the Mount Olive Township Code. Ms. Labow?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 7-2015.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laval?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We have three ordinances for first reading with a second reading of March 17, 2015. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 8-2015, entitled The Township of Mount Olive, Morris County, New Jersey, calendar year 2015, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget cost of living allowance and to establish a cap bank. Mr. Amianda.
Yes, Mr. President, I move the ordinance number ordinance number 8-2015 be introduced by the title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting be held on March 17, 2015 at 7 p.m. at the municipal building, 2204 Flanders Drextown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of second ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with requirements of the law.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laval?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 9-2015, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $3,965,993, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,723,898 in bond or notes of the township to finance part or the cost thereof. Ms. Labow?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ordinance number 9-2015 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting be held on March 17, 2015 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 10-2015, bond ordinance providing for various improvements to the water utility in and by the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $930,000, therefore and authorizing the issuance of 883,500 bonds or note of the township to finance the cost thereof. Mr. Roman?
Thank you. I move that ordinance number 10-2015 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting be held on March 17th, 2015, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We have 15 resolutions. Does anyone wish to move any to non-consent? Any discussion on that? No? Okay. Let's see who's on that. Okay. Public portion, anyone from the public have anything on these? Seeing none. We have a motion to accept the resolutions. Mr. Roman?
I move the approval of consent resolutions 1 through 15.
Second.
Okay, to roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Motions, Mr. Roman.
I move that we pass the bill list.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes, but I abstain on check number 69594. Administrative reports.
I have several. First is reappointment of Case Sarah Brakian to the Environmental Commission, alternate, two-year term to expire 12/31/2016. This Saturday, March 7th and 8th, Mount Olive District Robotics Competition will be starting at 10 a.m. at the Mount Olive High School. If you've never been to a robotics competition, I suggest you go. It's actually pretty amazing what they do and the number of schools that participate. Also, this Thursday, March 12th, at 7 p.m., the Harlem Wizards will be playing a number of different people from Mount Olive at the high school. Doors open at 6:30. It's a fundraiser for CMS, and I will be participating in the game, representing Mount Olive town government in the event.
Alex, are you?
No.
No, they don't want people to be injured. What do you have?
Yeah, just two things. As per the memo I sent 2 days ago, the recent auction just finished up, first round for this year. We'll do another one probably by June. Just under $20,000 in Myrna, municipal revenue not anticipated. That lapses the surplus in the following year. We're making the best use of the surplus equipment, and there is a market for it. So it's, ever since we put on Gov Deals and we put it on Facebook, we get a very good response. The only other item is the bus has finally met its end a couple months earlier than I really wanted it to. From our budget hearings, we were scheduled to get 2 mini buses this year, one with a ADA compliant lift. The current one we have was kind of held together by bubble gum and elastic bands. It finally gave way this week. The Board of Education has been kind enough to supply us with a ADA compliant bus, so we're going to be using that for at least 6 weeks, if not 10 weeks. We anticipate doing a bid, as well as possible national cooperative. We anticipate about April 14th, 15th, present council with a viable option and be able to, hopefully, able to purchase in short order. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any old business? Any new business? Seeing none, legal matters, we have to defer till Fred gets here. Council reports. Mr. Amianda, anything on Board of Ed?
No reports.
Mr. Ferrante is still on the road. Mrs. Labow, anything on seniors, economic, or TNR?
For Economic Development Committee, we're going to meet Monday, I think it is. We're trying for this coming Monday, and nothing for the seniors. For TNR, we just have one issue, Sean, with the TNR. We had one incident where on a weekend, on a Sunday, a cat had been hit by a car, 2 broken legs, broken pelvis, was brought to Golub's and left there. Nobody was there. Next day, they worked on getting some treatment for the cat. So TNR is requesting that in a situation like that, if a dog or a cat is, wounded, they should be brought to a Newton Animal Hospital. So we're kind of discussing that, and Sean has more details on how the whole procedure works. So that's where that stemmed from.
If I could add in on that, it brings a larger philosophical and legal issue and policy issue. What happened was, yeah, a stray animal was hit. So that then becomes, different legal avenues or opinions on this. From the township standpoint, do we spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on an unowned animal, and what's our obligation legally? I love animals too, but at what point, do we? My old economics courses in college, macroeconomics are the good and the butter decisions you had to make. So, on one hand, we have that stance saying, that's our obligation. On the other hand, I derived a legal opinion from Peter King, the Board of Health attorney, who had a different opinion on the matter. And absent the Board of Health changing policy and telling our animal control officer that we have to pursue that route, again, it's a highly emotional, highly charged issue. I think the best venue, and I heard TNR's opinion on the matter, and I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what they propose. I'm very much a fan and an ally. On the other hand, we have taxpayer obligations. At what point, is too much. So our stance has been to get the legal opinion, and absent the Board of Health changing policy and telling the animal control officer that they have to adhere to policy in a certain way, that the guidance he receives currently from the attorney is what he should follow. Now, I know TNR disagrees with that sentiment, but I think the proper forum for that is a rather robust debate at the Board of Health, and perhaps even in front of this body, even though in the end I think it's the Board of Health policy which is going to carry the day.
Well, I had Michelle Lerner, as we all know, she's an attorney, and she does work with the state a lot, and her opinion is that the law is very clear on what you have to provide for. Mr. King disagreed. I asked Jeff if he would just review it. So could we sort of have a tie right now? We have one on one side, one on the other. Let's get a third opinion kind of. But I agree with you also on the money part of it. How far do you go?
I would not agree with the premise of a tie. We have a duly appointed attorney for the
Right.
Board of Health.
Oh, I see,
And
yeah.
while I very much sympathize with Ms. Lerner and in no way disparage her legal acumen, she's not the appointed attorney. And that's no way disparaging her, but I think that opinion and that debate really needs to go before the Board of Health.
Yeah.
And I think a policy has to come out of that. But, we do a non-fair and open, we appoint our attorneys, and we follow their advice until they're changed.
I think the one thing that was disturbing about the whole thing was that an animal that was obviously injured was left at a facility that was closed for the night and left there in pain. I think that's the trigger for most of us. It's sort of like, well, but then what do you do? It's a stray. I know it's such a
But I'll disagree. Our animal
decision.
control officer said that cat was stabilized and had attention. Well, it didn't have an operation, but it had attention. So
Who had?
if I recall, Frank Nelson, the ACO, had said that animal had gotten stabilized, was taken out of pain. I'll have to review my notes, and maybe I'm
Yeah.
speaking out of turn. But from what I recall, Frank Nelson, our ACO, had a different take than what TNR did.
Oh, yeah, I thought that in the report that Dale said that, just
I-
left it there till the
Again,
morning that it could get checked out, but yeah.
Again, there are
that'd be
emotional
good to
issues,
check out.
and I
That's the
find-
whole thing, it's emotional.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's what's going on with TNR right now, trying to see if we can have a policy where if there is a situation like that, instead of just bringing the animal to Dr. Golub and leaving it there, perhaps we could bring it to the hospital, Newton Animal Hospital. So that's what's going on with that right now, trying to determine which way to go. So I think this is the first time this ever happened, so it's not like we don't have it happening all the time either, so it's sort of
rare.
like, it's very, very rare, and it's just unfortunate. So that's what's going on with TNR right now. Hello, Mr. Samro.
Yes,
Welcome.
good evening. Thank you.
Yes,
Apologies.
please let the record show Sam Rose here. Mr. Perkins is not here. Mr. Roman, anything on open space or recreation?
I have nothing on open space other than all the lovely trails are still covered in snow. I expect all the trails to be visible by mid-June. On recreation, last February 23rd, we had our second annual sports summit headed by Paul LaCitra, our former mayor, and our current sports ombudsman. Once again, the various sports organizations highlighted some of their accomplishments and some of their areas where they need some help in. Most important to note, looks like in most of agreement, most of the sports organizations are now going to participate in a shared calendar so that a lot of the stresses that occur from one sport that's about to start, scheduling a tryout just in the middle of another sport that's still in the midst of competition. So there's going to be a lot of shared information going on to make it easier on the children that are participating and obviously the parents.
Alex?
Yes.
Thought they did that already.
It's a little, the calendar you're thinking of is the one for scheduling the fields.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be like a Google Calendar of sorts, so that
For events.
if basketball wants to do tryouts, they know that not to do it when, say, the football kids have
Tryouts.
have a game going on.
Okay. Oh, so the kids can make it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so they can, just, it makes it a whole lot easier. And that is all I have.
All right, thank you. Board of Health has a meeting coming up on March 18th. Mr. Manny is not here, so we will move on to the agenda. Fred, was there any other legal matters? Anything else?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Joe, if I could,
Yes.
I just wanted to address the crowd that's here before we get into the issue itself. I have previously represented both Tom and Nicole in different matters, and I am also an attorney. So I'm really going to step down off the dais, not because I don't think that it's an important issue or because my input wouldn't be helpful towards the resolution or not helpful towards the resolution, but because I have a conflict. Having said that, I've heard various people say that I'm not in favor of what is happening with respect to the Shields issue and the resolution of the Shields issue, and that's really not the case. I've taken no position, and some may view that as a negative, but that's not the case. I have neither come out in favor or against because of where I sit and because of the legal advice that we get, and I'm sure Fred is going to go through that. But I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair for anybody who's sitting in the audience to suggest that anyone sitting up here doesn't support the volunteers, especially the people who run into harm's way. And everybody sitting in the audience, whether you're from Mount Olive or elsewhere, does that on our behalf. Having said that, we sitting up here have an obligation that goes beyond just the people who are in the room. It goes to the general taxpayers. It goes to where we stand in terms of our obligations overall. And I'm going to leave it to legal counsel in terms of the position that we've been given and allow everybody to speak. But I think it's unfair to say that I have been against anything or for anything, and you can criticize me for not being for something. I'll take that criticism. I think that's a fair criticism. It's just where I stand in terms of my own situation, but I've never been against anything. I've only taken the legal advice of counsel. So having said that, I'm going to step down. I know that Fred will express the position, the legal position.
Oh, they work.
That's fine. Okay.
Then we'll get into that.
All right, so we'll move back up to the original. Ms. Shields, I know you wanted to, if you want to come up and speak, you can come up here. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Shields. I reside at 13 Brewster Place. I come before the council today regarding the line of duty death of my late husband, Thomas Shields. Tom was a firefighter for 24 years, of which almost 6 of those he proudly served the town of Mount Olive, before his life was taken way too soon. I personally have spoken with a few of you regarding matters that are outstanding, but I wanted the whole council to be aware of what is currently going on and what I'm asking of them today. First, I want the council to know that I do have an outstanding workman's comp claim that has been filed. I am not at liberty to discuss the particulars of the open case at hand. However, I do want you to know that my claim for dependency benefits for the death that occurred on 5/31/11 for a call at 11:48 a.m. is being denied by this board. Secondly, and more importantly, I am here tonight to discuss the resolution that I have asked the council to pass in May of 2013. At that time, I was notified via email that the town lawyer is against it, and as I have an open workman's compensation claim. At that time, I tried to explain that one has nothing to do with the other. I felt shut down. I was denied again, and there was no further discussion. So that's when I did a little bit of research. I actually have been in touch with another widow of a line of duty death in Hopewell, New Jersey. Her council has passed the resolution, which I have here in my hands today. She actually had Senator Vitale assist with the wording of the resolution, so once it went to Trenton, it would be passed. She does still have an outstanding workman's comp claim of her own, so clearly, one has nothing to do with the other. Just so you know, this is money that is funded through the state. This is called the VESP. It's a Volunteer Emergency Workers Survivor Pension. It's for those volunteer emergency workers who were killed in the performance of their volunteer duties. Tom was honored in 2012 at Emmitsburg, Maryland for being a line of duty death. So I'm asking today that the council support both myself and my family and pass the resolution at the next council meeting. I look forward to speaking with you further, and I thank you very much for your time, and I hope that Mount Olive will do what's right so we can set standards in case this ever happens again to someone in Mount Olive.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Thank you, Nicole, and just thank you, and I thank, Tom, I knew Tom only for a brief period, but before I got on council, and I thank you, and I thank him and everyone here for the volunteers. As the mayor said, we've had you, unfortunately, at my home a couple of times with things that happened, and there's nothing, the volunteers are so important to us. Unfortunately, a lot of times we have to go through legal counsel, which I'm going to let Fred speak to right now on the subject, and take it from that point with Fred right now.
Ms. Shields, this is where being a lawyer is, you find yourself getting in the way of things. And it's unfortunate that these things happen in this manner. But what I want to tell you is, first, there's no one up here that's ever expressed that they're against the resolution. And even from a legal perspective, I've been asked to look at ways that the resolution could be considered by the governing body. And I'll start first with the mayor's position. That was my advice, because I don't want someone to take a position where they'd be conflicted and then just create other issues in this process. So I asked the mayor to step aside from this particular issue so that it could continue to go forward. Now, with respect to the resolution, the problem that we're having is the township is being defended in a workers' comp petition that you mentioned earlier, and that's through our insurance carrier. And the insurance carrier, through the attorney that's handling the matter, has said you cannot consider this resolution at this point in time until such time that the underlying workers' compensation case is over, because an opinion expressed on the resolution, whether it be for or against, would wind up somehow making its way into the workers' compensation case. Now, with that being said, I've been asked by the administration a number of times, well, what could be done so this governing body could consider this resolution? And I've been asked by members of the governing body the same question. And it's very limited because what happens is if we don't take the advice of the insurance carrier, then the responsibility for the underlying case becomes the township's. In other words, that's part of the policy of coverage that you have. You have to, if you do something adverse to the carrier, then you step in your own shoes and have to defend such an action, okay? So with that being said, what I've tried to do, and I'll say this to you from a standpoint of just trying to resolve this and get you the relief that you're asking, is to take the position up with the attorney who's handling this case by saying, what if, and I don't want you to answer because you do have litigation going on from a standpoint whether you say, I agree with this or I don't, but what if we were to somehow keep whatever this governing body decides outside of your workers' compensation case? That your attorney and the attorney that's defending or handling the workers' compensation matter through the insurance company enter into an agreement that says, look, no matter what is decided here, it's not going to be used for or against you in your other case. Because really, when I listen to everything that you've brought forward and the comments of the governing body is, you clearly have expressed with a very, very sincerity that you're entitled to this. And what the governing body is saying, they'd very much like to consider it. And you're saying that in a vacuum, I'd really like to get these benefits. I'm entitled to those benefits. And I'm saying, well, if that be the case, I'm going back to the carrier and saying, then why can't you enter into an agreement with your attorney that says one has nothing to do with the other, so that this governing body can in fact consider the resolution? I don't have an absolute green light on this because, number one, we're going to need to present that to your attorney, and your attorney will have to discuss that with you. And two, I'm going to have to convince the panel attorney that whatever's agreed upon is satisfactory so that this governing body can go forward. But that's, I just hope that gives you an understanding as to where we are. I'll try to answer any questions that you may have about it, but by no means I have to follow really what the mayor said. Whatever thus far has not been acted upon, it's not because anybody is against this. It's because from a legal standpoint, if we don't adhere to what the attorney is saying to us in the workers' compensation case, we could breach our own responsibilities in our insurance obligation, and that would be a cost to the township. So that's really where we are at this point, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think you're going to hear about this in the next few days as we've tried to make those inroads.
Okay, I guess my question would be is, why did it have to take me to come here today to do this, for then you to say that that's the reason why, and that would be the consideration? And I also have clearly shown you proof that there's also a workman's comp claim that my girlfriend has open, and she had her resolution passed. One has nothing to do with the other, and hers also is not being used against her. She's fighting her workman's comp claim like I am mine. And like I said, I can't give the particulars because of me being in litigation. But how is one person in New Jersey able to pass their resolution with an outstanding workman's comp claim, and yet I cannot have that?
Well, I mentioned to you, we're not saying no. We're trying a little bit of a different course. And I have to be honest with you, I've had this request come in from the administration, and we've been trying to monitor the case because what we had hoped originally, and this is what we had hoped, is that this case would have been over by now. But, the courts don't
Wouldn't we
always
both?
favor that, and that we don't have any control over. So when it first came about, we said, well, we'll follow those instructions. But we said, we'll monitor this case. We really hope it comes to a conclusion. Most cases resolve or, they wind up in the workers' compensation trial courts. But that hasn't happened. And even early on, we tried to come up with different ways. And even right now, I can't guarantee you that this would be the outcome, but this is what we're trying to push forward right now, seeing that the case right now, just on the court's calendar, doesn't seem like it has a conclusion in sight. I want you to know that I also made the request that the panel attorney who's handling this workers' compensation matter to please ask for a way that both parties could sit down and see if the matter could be resolved. Whether or not this goes forward or not, there's been a concern by the governing body and the administration to say, you know, where is this case and how much longer? So, you know, from that standpoint, we have the restraints of having to follow our insurance company's advice, but we're trying to seek ways to still address the concern that you raise.
Thank you. There's others I know that wanted to speak as well.
And I just want to say, Council President, one of the other things that we need to be mindful of is, you know, it's a very difficult situation because you've all expressed to me one way or the other the concern you have here. But it really limits your ability this evening to comment, to say I would be for it or against it, not because of anything besides the fact that our insurance company is saying that, in their opinion, that this could have an impact unless it's addressed by perhaps the way that we've now suggested. So you're limited to respond, but that response, what I say to the public, doesn't mean that this governing body's against it. It just means that they're trying to follow that direction to protect the integrity of the entire process.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Michael McDermott, 34 Alton Terrace, Flanders, New Jersey. I'm here, I'm the chief of Flanders Fire and Rescue Squad. This year, I'm going to obviously talk on behalf of Nicole, Tom Shields, and her family. I had a speech written out, and I decided to kind of talk from the heart because after what the mayor had said and what the lawyer is saying, I'm going to talk quick. I was looking at my wrist. I've worn this wristband since the week that Tom Shields died. And I know everybody in this room knows what the thin red line is. Police officers know what the thin blue line, but basically what that means is it's how we represent. Every time we walk out on a call, we answer a call for the emergency that the township calls us for, we walk that line. That line means sometimes we come back from it, sometimes we don't make it back. But it's the thin red line that we walk every time we go out on a call. My job as a chief is to make sure that we can respond and be trained well enough to answer all the emergencies that you have in this township. I ask a lot of my volunteers, and the one thing that I can offer to them is that you're volunteers. The township doesn't pay your salaries. You have jobs that you work around. You volunteer. But one thing that we can offer to them is should they lose their life, that there would be some kind of there's state funding, there's federal funding that would help their families when they come out to answer the call for the township. The resolution it just accepts that Tom died in the line of duty. The resolution shouldn't have anything to do with the workers' comp. I understand what you're saying. I understand the litigation. I understand all that, but the resolution alone just identifies that the township is acknowledging that Tom Shields died in the line of duty in Flanders responding to a call. I know there's a lot of talking back and forth with the workers' comp case on what the call was, where the call was, what it was about, but that has nothing to do with the fact that Tom Shields responded that day to help someone in this township. When he came home, within I think the time was within a half hour of the call, started experiencing chest pains. He died in the line of duty in this township, and everybody in this room is here from Mount Olive, from outside towns to support this, to make sure that we are protected. We continue to volunteer because that's what we want to do. We want to help everybody, but we expect that if something should happen, then our families are going to have some kind of protection if we answer our last call. And I have a hard time. I understand the litigation part. I understand your protection yourself, but this is, again, the resolution just states that Tom Shields died in the line of duty, and that's all we're asking for, and that's all we're all here in support of Nicole, and we're all in support of all of us, and from what's going to happen if one of us happens to one of us later. We have to go 4 years, 5 years. I don't want my family to have to wait 5 years to get money if I lose my life tomorrow on a call. So that's kind of what I'm sure you're going to hear from everybody else. But unless you have any questions for me, that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Falutico, 7 Timberline Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey. I got the illustrious position of filing all the paperwork for Tom. I'm going to read a letter, mainly because, well, I think that's probably the most level-headed that I'm going to do. So, Tom Shields died on 31st of May in 2011. This council and community came out in full support of the Shields family at that time, and we're very grateful. Time has passed. It's 4 years. The Shields family hasn't received New Jersey workman's comp benefits. Obviously, it's still in litigation, nor have they received line of duty death benefits from the Department of Justice. Nicole's had to take multiple jobs to make ends meet in order to support Tom's 2 children. Tom Shields was a firefighter and EMS responder for Mount Olive for 5 years and many more years in Patterson. Now, Tom died responding to, well, after a response to an injured child, an EMS call. And I guess I'm just kind of getting off script. So the hell with it. The bottom line is last year I responded 188 times. I put my life on the line for this council, this township, the people of Mount Olive 188 times. I got in my car, I went to the fire department, I got in a truck, I got on an ambulance. Every time that pager goes off, it's stressful. Every time I get in a car, I'm putting my life on the line. You know, tonight's a wonderful night. The roads are nice, clean, plowed, right? I can't tell you how many times I've got on those streets when a structure fire, a kid's injured, someone in this town is crying for help. So all we're asking for, in the 25 years I've been a firefighter, I've been told, if you die in a line of duty, your family will be taken care of. Guess what? I've been lied to for 25 years. 15 of those years in Mount Olive. I don't care if I get these benefits. I'm dead. My family cares. My wife and kids shouldn't have to stand up here, get lawyers, and fight for benefits that I've put my life on the line last year 188 times because someone else said, help, I need help. All we're asking for is some assistance. We're asking for you guys to question and ask why it's taking so long. Why are they fighting when it's clearly, if you read the Department of Labor forms, within 24 hours of a medical response, person passes away, it's considered a line of duty. It's in black and white. You don't need to be a lawyer to figure that one out. So what we're asking is, 1, to pass the resolution. 2, to question workman's comp on what they're doing. Because if we all have to go get lawyers, why would I want to volunteer? Why would I want to put my life on the line when my family is in jeopardy each and every time I go out that door? Why would I want to do that? The third thing is we want you to question what DOJ is doing, because DOJ is waiting on workman's comp. So we've got 2 high-priced lawyers against a widow and 2 children. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Doug Fenichel. I live at 14 Knollwood Road. And the first thing that I want to do is to thank everybody for coming out tonight in support of Nicole and Brandon and Greg on a night that's snowy and awful and, well, as cold as an insurance company attorney's heart, I guess. I'm the president of the Flanders Fire Company No. 1 and Rescue Squad. I'm also a firefighter and an emergency medical technician who responded to 208 calls in 2014 and 40 calls so far this year. It's been busy. I'm also a paramedic for a local hospital, and I'm also a voter. I've been responding to calls in Mount Olive Township for about 2.5 decades, and like the others you've already heard from, and like others you're going to hear from, I'm under the assumption that if the worst happens, if I die, my family would be taken care of. Now, that may sound dramatic, but those of us who have done this for a while, most of us in this room can tell you that we know it's a real possibility. We've had our own share of close calls. We've seen other departments grapple with line-of-duty deaths. And each of us knows that what happened to Tom Shields could happen to any one of us. We didn't become firefighters and EMTs for the money. We did it out of a sense of community. We committed to trading our spare time for your safety and for the safety of the others in Mount Olive. But there's a quid pro quo here. If we die in the line of duty, we expect that our families will be taken care of. We've done our part. Now it's time for you to do your part. I know most of you personally. I know that you support the fire department. I know you support the rescue squads. You say all the right things and you come out and support us. And I'd like to believe you're sincere. Tonight, or if it's going to be at the next meeting, we need you to support the people who staff those fire engines and those ambulances. We're not talking about budgets tonight. We're not talking about equipment tonight. We're not talking about training. And we're not asking for glib political statements or legal statements. We're asking you as township leaders to lead. We're asking you to stand up and tell us, no, stand up and demonstrate to us that you support the town's emergency first responders. We're asking you to promise tonight that you're going to live up to your end of the most basic bargain, that if we die in the line of help, in the line of duty, that you'll look after our families. The law provides for it. It's clear. It's crystal clear. It's in black and white. All you got to do is make it happen. You can demonstrate your support by passing this resolution and declaring that Tom Shields died in the line of duty. You all know he did. You all know the law plainly states it. I'm sure council has shown you the law. It's crystal clear. You all stood with us when we buried Tom. You hugged Nicole, you hugged Greg, you hugged Brandon. Now stand with us and support them. Support Nicole, support Brandon and Greg, and pass the resolution. This has nothing to do with workers' comp. It has to do with your compassion and your willingness to do what the law allows. I know what the legal position is. I've just heard it explained, and I've worked around attorneys enough to know that attorneys like to talk in extremes. One will start on the left, and one will start on the right, and we need to get this to the middle and get Nicole and Brandon and Greg taken care of. Not only will that support the Shields family, it'll let each of us who are your emergency responders know that you'll support us as well. The second thing is, we need to take a look at this workers' comp company. It's been almost 4 years, and they've been trying but haven't been able to find a legitimate way to void Nicole's claim. Isn't it time to pay it already? We need to take a look at the torture that this company is putting the Shields family through and end it. We need to tell the insurance company, however you need to do it, to quit playing and start paying. And then we need to do what we can through regulation and through legislation from Trenton to make sure no other family is subjected to the harassment and ridiculous claims that this insurance company is making, like responding to an unconscious elementary school child isn't stressful. I've been a first responder since high school. I started when fire engines had open cabs, and I worked in Cadillac ambulances. I have never felt betrayed by the community I've worked in until this whole thing came about. Many of our other first responders, many of the people in this room, feel betrayed. They feel like, why should they go through this? Why should they subject themselves to that? I'm the president of the Flanders Fire Company and Rescue Squad. What do I tell a first responder who comes to me and asks that question? So it's time to decide what's important to Mount Olive. If it's keeping peace with the workers' compensation insurance company, or is it providing for the men and women who respond to emergencies in your town? I urge you to do the right thing, to set the right standard. It's not just going to be Mount Olive that you're speaking for, because if you can keep Nicole and her family from getting her benefits, other towns will use those same tools to keep other people from doing it. So I urge you to do the right thing, get this resolution introduced and passed, and I thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Anyone else?
Good evening. Andy Force, 15 Kenmore, Bud Lake. I don't have anything prepared, but I would ask the council, some of you presently, some of you were not involved. Almost 5 years ago, speaking from the heart, I was sued by this township. How much money did I spend on that? And Attorney Samru, you mentioned it would cost to a town. Is that incidental? We have to look at the heart here, okay? We have to do the right thing. As Barbara Swayze stood over by the doorway and yelled at former Mayor Scapicchio to do the right thing, we have to look at within. If we're paying the township attorney to take the advice of the other attorneys, let's explore, challenge them to go back to that workers' comp case and find a resolution. I'm not saying they're not, but we have to work harder at it, is my opinion. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. At this time, I'm gonna ask Fred, the attorney, to please do everything you can to look into these questions, because they are legitimate questions that we do need answers on. And everything you can do to get those answers and figure out what we need to do quickly would be appreciated.
I understand.
Very much.
I understand the governing body has already told me individually to do whatever's necessary, and based on everything I heard, you know, 2 weeks may be a very tight schedule to turn around, but I think what I would ask is to list it for 2 weeks from tonight so that I'll have answers. Perhaps before then, Ms. Shields will also hear if some things have occurred. But I'll be in a position in 2 weeks from tonight to give everybody an update, and perhaps we'll be in a better position. And I take very constructively the comments and how they were expressed this evening.
I appreciate that. Ms. Labo?
I have 2 questions. First of all, I want to know, the workers' comp company that we're dealing with, how does that come about? Can we switch companies? Because
Well, I don't think at this point, you know, I understand the emotion tied to it, but
I think the question's been raised. I
Yeah.
mean, if they're not, 4 years.
But I think I'd be in a better position to first have that attorney brief you on the matter before you know, I understand exactly what your question is, but why don't we see what I come back with in 2 weeks? Because, you know, Mrs. Shields said something. She said, does it have to come to this? And it's unfortunate, but sometimes in these situations, when we're dealing with so many different areas, sometimes it actually helps, candidly. You know, the message has been sent, and a lot of points were raised, and you know, I'd like to come back in 2 weeks and be able to answer a lot of the questions.
I would like to say that you know as well as I know how many times I've called and complained about this issue, as well as other council
Understand.
members. And I do think, I agree with everyone here, 4 years, it's outrageous. And this company needs this has to get moved along, and whatever. And I know you're trying, Fred, but
Yeah.
we're gonna have to really try a lot harder, because every time any one of these people in this room leave their home to go on a call, they're risking their lives are on the line, and they do need to know that their family wouldn't have to wait 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, that they're going to be, you know, taken care of. And it's really outrageous. And I understand that we are sort of stuck here because of the situation, but we need to move it along. 4 years is absolutely unacceptable. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doc. You can go back up.
I'm just sitting here, you know, I'm listening, and the word being held hostage comes to mind. One of the things that concerns me is that the workers' comp company has just been purchased by another company. What guarantees do we have that this is going to start from scratch when they take over? I mean, isn't it, you're an attorney, you're representing us. We're the taxpayers, we're the voters, and I'm wondering why you're not pushing this company harder.
Mr. Carey?
Outside.
I'd like to just chime in. You know, again, I wasn't here in 2011 when the tragedy happened, and I've gotten to know Nicole and many of the people in this room. I will say that when this first came into my radar, I came here in 2012, I've been in constant contact with Fred's office, and including up to the last several weeks. And sporadically, there's been requests for updates from Fred's office, and they have, I will defend Fred's office, that they've been dutifully contacting the workers' comp attorney, so much so that we've been hopeful lately for a settlement conference to possibly be broached, and that communication just hasn't happened yet. So I'm working with Jeff and Fred. They've been responsive in this matter, and again, all the way going back to last May of 2013 through 14, and again recently. Fred has been trying his best. I get the correspondence on that. When I get that, I forward stuff to council saying, give them status reports on this. In that regard, I know Fred is not at liberty to say how frustrated he is, but I know he is because he's been trying to exert that pressure. And I see some things behind the scenes where he has been trying to get a resolution to this. And we're all as frustrated as everybody in this room, and certainly would like to go where we think we need to go.
Thank you. And I might add, it's really difficult because we can't really comment on the underlying workers' compensation case. All I can do is get an update. There may be a very good reason for the time period. It may be, but from a standpoint of trying to address this resolution, that's really the number one priority, first and foremost. And then, at the same time, to make sure that this governing body is aware of whatever the reason is for the timetable that has already been established on the workers' compensation case. And, I fully expect to give you those answers. And actually, in many ways, what's been said tonight, it helps me to be able to do that. Not only your comments, but the comments that I've received along the way from the governing body.
Anyone else? Okay, so we will, in a couple of weeks, we'll be back on the agenda and see what answers we have from there. We appreciate that. Appreciate everyone coming out, and your comments are very much appreciated, as the attorney said, and it will help. So we will promise you we will continue to work on this, and hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll have a better answer for you, Nicole, as well, and get some resolution to some items for you, so thank you.
Can I just
Mayor?
comment briefly, not about the reason that the meeting wasn't canceled tonight, because the weather is terrible outside. It's not having anything to do with this issue. It really has to do with the fact that we had budget items that were on for tonight that had to be addressed. We didn't want to limit the amount of people that were coming out on this particular issue, as some may think. It really had to do with the fact that our time frame, in terms of certain things which had to happen so that we could get our capital purchases on. We would have carried this to the next council meeting if there were other people who would have come to speak on this issue. We appreciate the fact that everyone came out tonight to address this issue under such bad circumstances. And I don't know what else to say. I know that there aren't people who are happy in the audience with the fact that this isn't getting resolved tonight, but that's the resolution that's going to happen.
Thank you. Do we have any council comments on anything? Daniel, Mr. Amianda?
No.
Ms. Laybell? Mr. Rumble?
Nothing.
No.
None from me. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.